This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how to retain the service account after escrow closes and a new owner takes over the property. If you've been servicing the pool for years and the house sells, I'll go over some tips there. Also, for a new homeowner, I'll go over some tips as well. If you buy a house with a pool and you've never had a pool before, are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. I'll start with the Pool Pro first. And if you have a service account where the customer is selling the house, it's really important that you maintain constant communication with the listing agent. How do you do this? Well, of course, the sign in front of the house will have the listing agent's picture on there, phone number. There should be some way for you to get a hold of the listing agent, and I suggest you make contact with them as soon as possible. Let them know that you're maintaining Mr. Jones' pool, you've been doing it for years, and typically if there's going to be an open house on the weekend, you'll let them know that you'll make sure the pool is clean and looking good for the open house. A lot of agents still do this. They'll have a broker's open house on a Thursday where they'll invite other agents to see the property, and they of course want the pool clean at that point as well. So it's always good to make contact directly. Sometimes leaving it to the owner to make contact for you doesn't work out well. They're busy doing so many other things. They may forget to pass on your information. I think the best way to make contact again is just to say that you're maintaining the pool. If they need any help, you'll be there to help them. Sometimes when they have the home inspection, there'll be things on the report that need to be corrected. Usually they're minor things. A lot of times it'll be like the intermatic timer doesn't have the safety shield on there, or they may find a leak somewhere at the equipment, and just let the agent know that you'll fix anything that comes out in the report. Of course, be proactive, and you should kind of know what the pool needs to have for it to pass the inspection. Most inspectors are just glancing at the equipment. They're not really doing a full inspection of everything. There have been a few that have done chemical readings in the pool. That's not as common, but a lot of them just look at the pool and they'll just note the age of the plaster. They'll note any cracks they see, any problems with the equipment. So make sure that everything is working prior to the sale. And this is something you get with the current homeowner, and talk about. You can say like, oh, I noticed that your house is for sale. I noticed your heater hasn't been firing up, and that should be fixed before the house is sold, because the inspector is going to turn on the heater and notice it's not working. So do you want me to repair the heater at this point? Most people will say, yeah, go ahead and do it. But some people will be like, nah, I'm selling the house as is. They don't understand the concept of that. Everything has to kind of be working. But you can get to that later. Once it's inspected and something is not working, they're going to have the homeowner fix that for the sale to finalize. And this is usually a cursory inspection, again, of the equipment. They don't do a full check of everything. They just do something that whatever they can see, they'll inspect, and they'll note those problems. If it's a home inspector or if it's the appraiser going out there, anything super obvious is going to come up on the report. If the water is 2 inches below the skimmer, they'll note that there's probably a leak in the pool. So these are all things that should be corrected before the house goes into escrow or someone purchases the house. Now, on the other side of it, if you don't make contact with the agent, which I think is really important to do again right at the beginning, so that there's a relationship there, You also want to put some kind of literature or sticker at the timer so that whoever takes over, if you can't make direct contact with them, because a lot of times the listing agent doesn't have any contact directly with the buyer. All they can do is pass on, unless they're working both sides of the deal, of course, then of course they have contact with the buyer directly. But if there's a buyer agent involved and a listing agent lists the property, they generally don't talk to the buyer directly during the transaction. All they can do is pass your information on to the buyer's agent, which I find to be hit and miss. Sometimes the buyer agent will give the new owners a packet with the gardener, with all the information during escrow that they need to know about who's servicing the property. But a lot of times they don't bother doing that, and so the pool service is not, of course, forwarded to the new owner of the property. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that if there's nothing indicating who you are that you've been servicing the pool, they won't know who to contact, and they're going to probably, if they take over the house and want pool service, start calling around for other companies to give them a bid on the property. So it's important to either have something on the door, like a flyer you can leave there for them. A lot of times when the house closes escrow, there's going to be a ton of junk mail left on the front door from pest control, from gardeners, from whoever, because they're kind of tracking the sale of the house. Some people are tracking it through a service, and they'll leave these flyers on the door for the new owner. You wouldn't need to do that because you're already servicing the pool, so you could, of course, just leave a flyer on the door yourself. I would put a sticker on the equipment. A note on the equipment is also helpful. You could do something typed and put it in an envelope and just say new owner and leave it there with your information. I've done that before as well. It's pretty effective. They'll see it, they'll open it, and then they'll call you to talk to you about the service, what your rates are. Again, the buyer's agent should pass all this on, but they usually don't in some cases. So just be aware that you're going to have to do it yourself. Whoever purchases a home, you're going to have to make contact. Now, a lot of pool companies see an opportunity when they see a home that says sold on it or for sale. And so they'll actually hit that home with their own literature. They can't necessarily go into the backyard and put it on the equipment. So that's your advantage. So your sticker with your business name on there. If there's an old sticker from another company, of course, take that off and put yours on there. A lot of times we get kind of lazy and you'll see something on the time clock from a pool service from like 5 years ago. I would take that off or cover with your sticker and put the information in the backyard on the pool equipment itself so that the owner can see it and you can make direct contact. But just be aware, again, that other pool companies will see an opportunity with a home for sale and they'll put their literature there as well. At least in my area, that happens a lot because it's a good lead without having to purchase a pool or do a lot of advertising. You'll capture the new owner right away with those flyers sometimes. But if you're servicing the pool, you have the advantage of being right there front and center. I like to circle back around also when the house is closed because you're still servicing the pool, and sometimes you'll get to the house and it'll say sold on the front sign. Not necessarily the new owner has taken over yet. The agent will put that on there. There's a little transition period for the seller to move out of the house. You may run into the seller and they may say, yeah, the house, the new owner's coming in on Friday. Good information because on Friday when they're moving in with the moving trucks, I know this is kind of awkward and not the best time to approach people sometimes, but sometimes it's actually the best time because they're getting everything set, they're moving in there, and they may not have a lot of time to talk to you, but simply give them your card and say, yes, I've been doing this pool for the last 5 years. Here's my information. If you want to continue service, here's my rates. I can continue on the same service day, which is Thursday, and give them all the information within like a minute or so because they're busy and they may call you the next day or later that day. But making contact is important. Sometimes you can make contact after they move in. So after the week they move in, because sometimes you can't catch them on the move-in date, of course. Doesn't fit on your pool route. But you go back there on your regular service day, knock on the door. I wouldn't necessarily walk right back into the backyard. You're not sure if they have a new dog or if there's, they don't want you back there. So I would knock on the door. Sometimes they're not home. And so you can't really go back there at that point because technically this is a gray area, but that house is transitioned to a new owner. You don't have any kind of service contract or relationship with the new buyer of the house. And I guess you'd be trespassing in a lot of states if you go back there without having some kind of okay from the new owner. By the way, if you want a copy of my service agreement, which I highly recommend you have the new owner sign, you can email me at david@swimmingpoollearning.com. Again, that's david@swimmingpoollearning.com. And I can send you the service agreement. It's just a one-page agreement, not necessarily a contract, but it's a way to give all the information to the new owner easily in a one-page agreement that you can modify on Word. But it's something that you would want to explain to the new owner, your services, what's expected. Much easier when you have a service agreement that you can just show them, this is what you're going to do each week, and this is your policies on sick days, vacations, windy days, all that's in there for them, and then they sign it and continue service with you. Really easy. Talking to them, they're not going to remember everything, they're learning everything about the house itself, and it's really difficult for them to process that information unless it's written down and handed directly to them. So making contact can be difficult after the fact because they may not be home, you have no contact information, and so the old school door hangers are really handy. The supplier should have some. Usually there's someone that wants you to have the door hangers of their product on there. And just go in there and ask them at the counter, hey, do you have any door hangers? Sometimes I'll hand you some door hangers. Of course, you can get some made yourself at a printer. Not super difficult. I would think door hangers are much better than just putting something on the door. I like the door hangers because you can hang them on a doorknob or the handle of the door, and you can write some notes on there. I'm the pool service. I'm usually here on Thursday. I noticed that you weren't here. If you want me to come back tomorrow, I can definitely do that. Here's my cell phone, and then go from there. Of course, you have left that information on the back also by the equipment, and so the fact they're not calling you may mean that they don't want service, but it also may mean that they're busy and they overlook calling you. Honestly, you're not that important at the moment they're moving in. They're getting everything situated, get everything switched over, and they may forget to reach out to you. That happens all the time. So don't think that they're not wanting to continue service. They may still want service. It's just that there may be a 2-week gap, and be prepared for the fact that the pool may not look great. They may not even call you until the pool starts turning, and then they're like, hey, who's maintaining the pool? And then someone may say, oh yeah, there was a note on the equipment, here's the person. But the door hanger, of course, the week of your service day is also critical of making contact. There's really not much else you can do because I've done this before too, and it's not that effective. I've called the listing agent or texted them after and said, oh yeah, I noticed that the house sold, congratulations. If you could pass on my information to the buyer, that'd be great. A lot of times they already got their check, they're done. They'll be like, yeah, I'll pass it on. They may send like a quick message to the buyer's agent, whatever. They may not even do anything at that point. So you can't rely on the agent after the fact. They moved on to the next deal basically, and they're not really thinking about you. So those are effective ways, I think, of reaching out directly to the buyer. Now, if you're a new homeowner, you've taken over, you bought a house at a pool, there are a lot of things that you're doing at that point. Of course, moving is a lot of things you have to take care of. I would suggest that if they do have a pool service currently, just continue that pool service. And if a month or two down the road you want to change and do it yourself, you can do that. But I would say as you're getting settled, as the dust is settling, one more thing you don't want to add to your plate is maintaining the pool. You're going to be pretty unfamiliar with the pool equipment, with how it's operating. All those aspects are something that you don't know a lot about, unless you had a pool before, of course, and it's a pretty easy transition. But I find that a lot of people that buy a house with a pool haven't had a pool, or maybe had a pool when they were a kid, and things are a lot different now. There's like saltwater generators, there's different types of filters, and so the learning curve may be a little steep for you. So it's not a bad idea to keep the pool service in that case, so you can kind of learn and maintain everything. You don't want that pool turning on you when you first take over. There's a big problem that happens a lot. So of course, maintaining everything as it is, the same landscaper, the same pool service, the same window cleaner. These are all things that are important to maintain, I think, at the beginning in the transition period. And you may like service, and you may not even want to do it yourself at that point. But I would suggest reaching out. You may see the note on the equipment if they're listening to this podcast and doing things correctly. You may see their door hanger. I wouldn't necessarily be shopping around because the current pool provider knows a lot about the pool, especially if they've been doing it for years. They know what happens during different seasons. They know the equipment really well. And it's going to be a smooth transition. You buy the house, You keep the pool service, they keep servicing the pool. It's pretty simple and a win-win. As long as you like the service and how the pool's looking, I would say there's very little reason to change unless you really want to change to someone else and shop around. And if you can't find their information, maybe it got moved, or if the gardener blew it off there, you don't see any information, you can always ask the buyer, your agent, the buyer's agent, for the information. They probably have it in their file. They probably received it from the owner. They just didn't pass it on to you, and they would have the pool service contact information there. And just be aware the pool service company may be contacting you, and is something that is normal during the transition period. There's a gap, and so remember this gap here. Sometimes the house closes escrow and no one moves in for 2 weeks. This happens a lot because they're moving from a different area. They're getting everything in order. The house may be vacant. They may just be there to inspect it and do certain things. You'll never catch them at that moment. And then you may not catch them on a move-in date, but you can actually see evidence that someone's moved in at some point. Trash cans are full. There's new stuff in the yard. There's cars parked there. That's your signal that, yes, someone has moved in. The sign is gone from the front yard. It's a good sign. The sold sign has disappeared. That means that it's definitely done. The agent's not advertising that they sold the house anymore and new people have moved in. So watch for these signs. It's always smart to circle back around to this pool that was sold, even not on your regular service day. If you're there on a Thursday, not a bad idea to swing by on a Monday, see if you can catch the customer. But the bottom line is you have to make contact, and same with the new owner. You have to make contact with the pool service. I really think keeping the same service is wise in a lot of cases again, but making that initial contact, and there can be some difficulties in making contact through that transition period. If you're a new owner, sometimes you'll have a home warranty with the pool equipment. They'll extend it out. Usually they'll cover all the appliances, the water heater, the stove for 1 year. And they may give you a policy for the pool equipment as well. And that's important to note that if you do have that extended to the pool equipment, let your pool service company know that as a new owner, and by the way, as the pool service provider, you should know that a lot of times when someone buys the house, the seller, I should say, will get one of these home warranty services, and that extends to the pool equipment. So if something goes wrong, the motor dies within the first year of the person taking over the house, they can call the warranty company. They can send the warranty person out there to look at it and to possibly replace it. These warranty companies, by the way, are hard to work with. I've worked with them before. Sometimes they'll just put in a used motor. Sometimes they'll say that it's because of the plumbing or the water was low, caused the motor to burn out. If there's a crack in the equipment, they may say it's a fault of the pool provider, and it's something they cover under warranty. So be aware that getting the warranty service to actually do something is difficult. I once had a house where I bought it and the water heater stopped, and I called the warranty company and they said, well, there's actually a big dent in the side of the water heater. It wasn't gigantic, it was just dented. And since the water heater is dented, it's damaged, and we don't cover it under warranty. Strange, because a dent in the water heater doesn't really cause anything functional with it. Sometimes they even sell those at Home Depot, the ones that are dented. It's not anything that does that, but fighting with them is another story. So be aware that it's difficult sometimes to get that. But of course, be aware that the homeowner may want to use it or try it. So don't automatically replace the pump and motor. Let them go through their warranty company and work that out. But that's something that's pretty typical with the home sale and pretty typical for the seller to buy that warranty for the buyer. If you're looking for other podcasts that I recorded, you can find those, of course, by subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'll have a podcast Monday through Friday up there. On my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, on the banner, there's a podcast icon. You can click on that for more podcasts. And you can subscribe, of course, wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're interested in the coaching program, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.